After 11 years, the Shana plan is over. The Toronto Maple Leafs announced that President Brendan Shanahan is no longer President Shanahan. They will not be renewing his contract. And I know based on some of the things that you've heard me say on the podcast and in videos recently, you might think I'd be jumping for joy. I'm sad. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think this was the right decision, and it doesn't mean I don't think this will ultimately be good for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it is sad nonetheless. Let's read the Leafs statement and relive some history here. Following the completion of the Maple Leafs 24-25 season with a loss in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs to the Florida Panthers, they didn't need to put that part. That was unnecessary. Just after the season. That's all. Anyway, with a traumatic loss to the Florida Panthers, MLSE announced that the contract for team president and alternate governor Brendan Shanahan would not be renewed this offseason. Over the past 11 years, Brendan Shanahan has made countless contributions to the Toronto Maple Leafs on the ice, off the ice, and in the community, said MLSE president and CEO Keith Pelley. Brendan is one of the most respected leaders in the game, and he has instilled many of the traits that were the signature of his Hall of Fame career throughout the organization, uniting this storied franchise in the honor, pride, and courage that it was founded on. Our responsibility and driving motivation, however, is to add a new chapter to the Maple Leafs championship history, and it was determined that a new voice was required to take the team to the next level in the years ahead. The franchise will be forever grateful for Brendan's contributions and wish him and his family every success and happiness in the future. Brendan Shanahan was announced as Toronto Maple Leafs team president in April 2014. Sorry, I'm losing it. That was a month after my wife and I moved into our house in Oshawa, where we lived for 9 years. And then we moved out of that place and came here. And he predates that, man. Like, he predates our marriage. We've been married over a decade now. Anyway, Brendan Shanahan was announced as Toronto Maple Leafs team president in April 2014, joining the team after serving in various roles as an executive with the National Hockey League, most recently as director of player safety. As president and alternate governor for the Maple Leafs, Shanahan was responsible for all areas of the club's operations and led the building of the team that would go on to qualify for the playoffs for a league-leading 9 consecutive seasons. His impact of... Man, they really had to put that, huh? His impact off the ice has been equally important, overseeing the franchise's centennial anniversary celebrations during the 2016-17 season, introducing Legends Row in Maple Leaf Square, a series of statues that pay tribute to the greatest players in Maple Leafs history, and tireless work to rebuild strong ties between the team's strong alumni network and the club. Now, Brendan Shanahan was not let go as president of, or not renewed, whatever, as president of the Toronto Maple Leafs because they made it to the playoffs for 9 straight years. We're all quite happy about that, actually, like in a vacuum. The problem has been they've won 2 rounds in that time. And this year you might go, oh, well, they had a 7-game series against the defending Stanley Cup champions. All right, well, they only lost to the defending Stanley Cup champions twice out of those 7 times. The beginning, middle, and end of it is this was it. This is all that's left. Other than moving off of the core, which is going to happen whether Brendan Shanahan likes it or not, the GM is gone. Actually, a couple GMs are gone. The head coach was gone. In fact, several head coaches are gone. How many assistant coaches? Like a dozen? At some point, this team that has struggled with futility like none other in the history of the NHL, there was a common denominator, and it was one guy, and he was in charge of everything. Now, he released a statement, and I think it's worth reading, and then I think it's worth looking back at Shanahan's time as president. Elliot Friedman tweeted this out. Statement from Brendan Shanahan. Following a meeting today, I was informed that I was no longer going to remain as president and alternate governor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to thank the board of MLSE for thus tremendous support they have shown me over my tenure. Toronto is where I was born and raised, where my family still lives, and being a part of this historic franchise will always be one of the greatest honors of my life. I want to thank the entire Maple Leaf staff for their commitment and hard work over the years. They are second to none in the National Hockey League. I want to thank the alumni for all their support and the tremendous work they do at our games and within the community. Many of them were my heroes growing up, and it has been a pleasure to get to know them on a personal level. I want to thank the fans for their passion and loyalty. Notice how he didn't say it was the fans' fault that the Leafs kept losing. There's some people who should probably take note of that. Anyway, while I am proud of the rebuild we embarked on starting in 2014, ultimately, I came here to help win the Stanley Cup, and we did not. There is nothing more I wanted to deliver to our fans, and my biggest regret is that we could not finish the job. I greatly enjoyed working with Brad and Craig, and I firmly believed they are excellent in their roles and have done a great job in their time with the team. Also, I want to thank the players. They are committed and passionate about delivering a championship to this city and will do everything within their power to accomplish that goal. I wish them all the very best. Thank you, Brendan. I want to tell you about something that is sometimes difficult about this. Something that is difficult about having a YouTube channel where you have like 250,000 subscribers. Over 100,000, like way over 100,000 people are going to watch this video. SDPN's YouTube channel just crossed 150,000 subscribers. Your words carry weight with those numbers. And I have been all over Brendan Shanahan for years. And I've met Brendan Shanahan. I've had nothing but pleasant interactions with Brendan Shanahan and the Leafs players and any of the coaches that I've ever met. Brendan Shanahan has been nothing but kind to me in person. And I repaid that by, for a couple years now, saying, hey, the Leafs should probably fire this guy. But I don't make these videos for the board at MLSE, the executives at the Toronto Maple Leafs, the coaches, or the players. These are for the fans. The fans who have wanted to see this team win a Stanley Cup since 2 years prior to the moon landing. The fans who have eagerly awaited the playoffs every year for 9 straight years, only to be disappointed each and every time. He might be a great guy. I don't know him like that. I tell you what, I don't know anything about Bill Zito as a guy, but I can tell you that as an executive, he works for the team and runs the team that are the current Stanley Cup champions. They are the defending Stanley Cup champions, and they're still in the Final Four, and they just knocked off the Leafs, as the Leafs mentioned in that press release, unnecessarily. The best stuff Brendan Shanahan did with the Toronto Maple Leafs is probably near the beginning of his tenure with the Leafs, and that's probably a big reason why he hung around for so long. Before the Leafs' centennial year, he talked about a 5-year plan that changes every day. On opening night, he surprised everybody by no longer honoring jersey numbers, but retiring them. James Van Riemsdyk changes his jersey number on opening night of the season. And he builds Legends Row, which is a very popular attraction outside of Scotiabank Arena. I see people taking pictures with it every time I walk by it. And I love the thing. So many people who this organization has either turned away or alienated over so many years came back to the team. Matt Sundin, I still think his relationship with the Leafs is a little bit complicated, but for the most part, he's back. Dave Keon was nowhere to be found, and Brendan Shanahan brought him back into the building and immortalized him several times over. He changed the logo and the jersey to one that thoroughly does not suck, unlike the ones before it. The alumni that you see at the games are not necessarily the same alumni you would see at the games before Brendan Shanahan became president of the team. Again, they were ignored and or alienated. The Leafs for many, many years did the same crap, trotted out the same people, and not to mention trotted out the same awful team. Well, what happens 2 years into Brendan Shanahan's tenure with the Toronto Maple Leafs? The dude gets the first overall pick and selects Auston Matthews. And who gets to make that pick? A front office of Mark Hunter, a grizzly guy who ended up getting on the stage and making the pick, a legend in junior hockey circles. Kyle Dubas, one of the hot young free agents that was on the market at the time, and he gets him. And Lou Lamoriello, the most accomplished and prestigious executive probably in the history of the sport. It's like him and like, I don't know, is Scotty Bowman more of an executive or a coach? It depends. Add to that, he gets a prestigious coach in Mike Babcock at the time to join the team. Remember, we really wanted that at the time. Mitch Marner is selected 4th overall the year before. William Nylander selected 8th overall the year before. The core is there. Lou Lamoriello leaves, Kyle Dubas becomes the GM, and one of the first things he does is he signs John Tavares as a free agent. That's Shanny. I don't want all of Brendan Shanahan's tenure with the Leafs to be remembered as one of epic failure, because so many of the things he did around the Leafs, frankly, off the ice with the Leafs, were really objectively very, very good. And yeah, they made the playoffs 9 straight years, and they won the division a couple times. One of them was made up, the other was this year. And yeah, the salary cap went stagnant for a few years because of COVID, and I think that wrecked a lot of plans. Might have even wrecked the Shana plan as a whole. But for a 5-year plan that supposedly changes each and every day, this team under Brendan Shanahan was unbelievably, inexcusably, unjustifiably stubborn. The Leafs are about to lose Mitch Marner, one of the greatest regular season performers they've ever had. His name is all throughout the top 5s and top 10s in basically every offensive category. He was nominated for the Selke Trophy. The Leafs are about to lose this player for nothing because they didn't make hard decisions when they had a chance to. I've walked through this many times. I'm going to walk through it again. 2021, you lose to the Habs, you blow a 3-1 series lead. You could have made moves then, right? Significant moves. You didn't. Okay. 2022, you lose to the defending Stanley Cup champions in 7. Sound familiar? On home ice. Sound familiar? And you only score 1 goal in that game 7. Sound familiar? Listen, do you make significant moves then? Well, no. Okay. 2023, you win a round. Finally. Shana plan is working. Everything is working. We were right to stick with it. You get demolished in the second round by Florida. Kyle Dubas does a press conference. It was not a very good press conference. In fact, it got him fired. But within that press conference, Kyle Dubas said for the first time, hinted at for the first time, you know what? I can move off of this core. He was fired hours later. Hours later. Brad Treliving comes in, and he's got 5 weeks before Mitch Marner's no-move clause kicks in. The Leafs, Brendan Shanahan especially, had known that that no-move clause was going to kick in for 4 years. 4 years warning they had. And Brad Treliving is stuck there, patting his pockets looking for his keys. So July 1st comes, you let the no-move clause kick in. Now, you can't trade Marner without Marner's approval, and he didn't give you the approval. I don't blame him. The guy sticks to something that he negotiated for and earned. Okay, great. So you got Marner, you got Tavares, whose contract will be coming up. It's actually up right now. And Austin Matthews. Okay, so Willie's gone then, right? Willie's gone. He starts the next season, William Nylander does, and is one of the best offensive producers in the entire NHL. And he keeps that up for several months, and the Leafs lock him up to 8 years, $11.5 million. The Leafs have 4 players making $900,000 or more per season than Sasha Barkov. They had 2 final lifelines to switch off of the core. It was July 1st, 2023, when Marner's no-move clause kicked in. You opted to keep him. Fine. Cool. You cannot keep Willie. You can't. You cannot do it. They keep him. They extend him for 8 years. Now you've made your bed. If you don't get it done in the next 2 years with a new GM, with a new coach after a year, if you do not get it done in the next 2 years, you risk losing Mitch Marner and John Tavares both for nothing. That was always the risk. And now it looks like Mitch is probably gone, and who knows about John, but John is in his mid-30s. It's not nearly as high stakes as this dude who just hit 100 points for the first time. So yes, Brendan Shanahan and the Toronto Maple Leafs under him have done a lot of good things. A lot of good things. He's leaving them in not good shape. Okay, Brad Treliving's there, and that's a Shanahan hire, and I generally like the job he's done. Craig Berube is there, and he's the head coach, and he's a Shanahan hire, and I generally like what he's done. Where's all the draft picks? They've all been traded, okay? Where's all the prospects? Most of them have been traded, okay? Where are the playoff accolades? There are none. Where is Marner going, and what are you getting for him? The Leafs, it sounds like, are going to have a boatload of cap space this summer. What are they going to spend it on? It's not all that great of a free agent class, is it? Well, they can just trade what? Draft picks? Prospects? They don't have those. I still think that the Leafs can make the playoffs next year, obviously. Whether or not they do anything in them is a matter of, it's a very hot topic, but this is the winning business. Brendan knows that. That's why he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. When he was a player, he won a lot. But during his tenure with the Leafs, they did not win, not when it mattered most, not even close. They never even got halfway. And now their position going forward is down. That is why the Brendan Shanahan era is over in Toronto. Now he might be going to the Islanders. I don't know. Maybe he goes back to the league. I don't know. I don't really care what other teams do. I don't care what the league does. I care about what the Toronto Maple Leafs do, and I care about what's next. Listen, the hockey world is getting way more unpredictable than it ever has. Take, for example, while shooting this video, Canada lost at the World Hockey Championship to Denmark. Well, it's a World Hockey Championship. They had Crosby, McKinnon, Sanheim, and Konechny were on the Four Nations team. Wild stuff. There are elite world-class hockey players out there who you've never heard of in your entire life. Executives with varying degrees of experience. Maybe someone who's never even gotten a shot. Maybe someone who's been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years. Whoever MLSE decides to bring in, they have to do one thing. One. To make the fans truly happy. Win. That is the entire goal. And it's also way easier said than done. Now, we'll have more to talk about with this on the Steve Dangle podcast tomorrow. I'm going to be there with Adam Wilde and Jesse Blake. We're going to record our thoughts. Then we're going to take a quick break because Jesse is going to go across the street to Scotiabank Arena to take part in a press conference featuring Keith Pelly and the Brain Trust of MLSE, and then after he gets quotes from that, finds out what they're going to say, he's going to come back and we're going to record our thoughts after that. In the meantime, what do you think of this decision? What did you think of Brendan Shanahan's tenure with the Toronto Maple Leafs? What was the best? What was the worst? How will you remember this time in Leafland? For now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. We need a new plan.